Thank you for having us here. This is a privilege to be here. We pride ourselves as a group of giving you good education and information. We are not here to sell you anything. Okay? That usually you hear the word insurance and you run for the hills, or at least to your dental office for a better experience, and I get that. I give a little context as to some of the panelists here. I'm an underwriter. I'm one of the guys that you can blame for the price you pay and the coverage you enjoy. Then we have Doug, and he's with BrookStone. He is at the front line. He is representing you to the insurance carriers. So if there's something to complain about, go ahead and tell him. Next, I'd like to have Doug point out, you're day-to-day looking and reviewing everybody's policies that's interested in buying insurance from you.
Yeah.
Describe the most prevalent and harmful exclusions that you're seeing out there.
Well, one thing is because of the construction boom, we have a number of carriers really that don't need to be doing business here. Their coverage forms are horrible, and I tell people that all the time. Some of the top exclusions that we see are a CG 2294. That's probably the most harmful, which excludes property damage for work performed on your behalf by subcontractors. I mean, think about that. You sub out all your work, it goes back and takes that and excludes completed operations. So you build a house today, 2 years from now, you got water damage on the floor, that's property damage, you subbed it out, not covered. Gets them off the hook for virtually everything except a third-party slip and fall. And I'm seeing that with, I've seen 5 or 10 of them in the last few weeks. We see a lot of continuous and progressive exclusions.
Are those non-admitted carriers? Is that what you're talking about? Non-admitted carriers? Even admitted carriers
Absolutely.
will have those exclusions?
The one I'm referring to is admitted and was I can't say that, a TAB endorsed years back.
Yeah.
They have both of the top two. So continuous and progressive means that if it's not manifest or made a claim for during the period, they're not going to cover it, and that wipes out most of construction defect. Let's say you have rot. Well, rot might appear now, but it only becomes prevalent after the house is built 2 years down the road. The continuous and progressive says if it's not manifest during that period, they're off the hook for it. So that eliminates the rest of the construction.
So it's almost like eliminating completed operations that you're paying
on
for.
The first one, the first one is definitely getting rid of completed operations, and that furthers it. It turns the policy into claims made for that issue for progressive and surface.
What about mold?
Well, we actually have a new product for mold that we're offering now, and we're not trying to sell you anything, but it is a broad form pollution, and it includes $1 million of mold coverage. I have that available through one carrier, and we're doing quite a bit of that.
But that's excluded everywhere, isn't it?
It is excluded.
I mean, Don, have you seen
never, unless you specifically ask for it to be covered, the carrier might take it out. They probably won't, but you have to pay for it. And that's why you got to use insurance professionals that only work with builders, contractors, because your average insurance professional out there does not know any of this. They just know GL, buy, here you go.
One of the biggest problems that we're seeing, and most people don't even think it's a problem, is earth movement and subsidence. And those are admitted carriers that are doing that. And you know, it can be earth movement from anything, for any reason, for any cause. It's not defined. And between that and the CG 2294, they're just not paying claims. I had a contractor that I work with in Houston, I'm not going to name it, and we had quoted their insurance. They decided not to go with it. I told them subsidence was excluded. We're not worried about the soil. We don't have soil problems. 2 months afterward, their retaining wall collapsed. The insurance carrier declined it because, number one, it was the work, and the number two, it was subsidence. And not only that, they had to satisfy 15 homes that were built on that, upwards of $1 million. So it turned into $1,800,000 claim on a soil problem, which is subsidence.
One of the reasons I brought up mold is that Texas is famous. There's this guy named Ed McMahon, used to be on the Johnny Carson show, for those of you that remember. And he had a house built in Texas. That was the first black mold claim, and that wiped out that builder. And it set a precedent nationwide. And so I just want to point out that that's one thing we've seen. Getting back to the more prevalent area that's active right now, Doug, you mentioned exclusions for subsidence, limitations on continuous and progressive, and I'll point out that that varies from carrier to carrier. And mold. What about uninsured subs?
What about?
Are we seeing exclusions or limitations on uninsured subs?
Well, other than the CG 2294 that excludes them, we're seeing a lot of audit problems with uninsured subs because there's two different ways they rate policies, and one is on a payroll base, and builders are going in and their agents putting them at 100% insured subs, and then they get hacked for like $60 per 1,000 on the reverse side. We do a lot of our things on a gross sales basis, which is kind of an easier audit, and they don't check your sub costs, and just a more sound, simple way to insure builders. And that includes all uninsured subs on there, but you have no penalty for them at audit. I mean, I'm seeing some huge audits this year in a boom economy just because the agent didn't ask the right questions. They just assume 100% insured. The guys have no contract. They, owe 20, 30,000 at the end of the year. It's a mess.